Hey everybody, welcome to a very special episode of TFG Radio. The reason we're doing this is that the balanced data slate and a lot of the other supplements have come out for the game for 40K. So we're going to talk a little bit about them with giving our first impressions from what we've seen so far. So with us we have Danny
Hey.
and Tom
Guten Nacht.
and no John today again.
Yeah, my German was in honor of his absence.
Sure, you're bad German.
Yes.
So let's just start with. I guess we'll start with the actual the balanced data slate itself, which is basically changes some of the core rules and some of the army rules. Some of the changes they made. And for those that don't know, when you are looking at it, there's changes compared to previous changes and previous data slates because they put a plus symbol next to it. They'll keep everything in red, so some of the older stuff you may think is new, but it's actually not. Anything that has a plus symbol is new, and there are a lot of plus symbol
I
in the.
was gonna say there's a lot of plus symbols embedded in here.
Jesus, there's a lot of plus symbols.
I mean, it's nice that they're trying to, actually do a little bit of a UX here and like actually think about, oh, how would it make it easier to navigate this?
Yeah, and a lot of it is a lot of it's clarifications. A lot of it is actually consolidation from previous rulings that they had into a more formal document. So some of it may seem may seem like redundant because you may have seen it before.
Right.
So when you go through like the core rules for the balanced data slate, there's things like modifying the stratagem CP cost.
I mean, that's a big one, is that it's no, you don't get free strats anymore from like what is it, Rites of Battle or
Right.
Hive Tyrant stuff. It's now just, oh, it you reduce the cost by one.
Yeah, that one's actually really huge.
Yeah. It's, I know in like when it's Endless Swarm,
Mm-hmm.
having the Hive Tyrant meant you could recycle units
Yeah.
pretty cheaply. And now it's like, well, no, now you actually still need to be hoarding CP to be able to recycle them. So that's kind of a big deal. I mean, you
Yeah,
still can get,
I think that one's a bit of surprise. I don't know. Other than the early days when they switch it to battle tactics only, I don't know.
Mhm.
Since then, I haven't seen any real abuses of the zero cost strat. But I mean, I might be playing the wrong army. So they talk about stratagems that can be used more than once per turn or per phase, with a long explanation. But I don't think that one's a big deal. One that prevents something from being targeted. If you played Chaos, you had the famous Nurgle strat that did that. Yeah, I think they changed it.
they changed it to 18.
Yeah, which they had changed it before. Well, they changed. So this applies now to every strat as opposed to just the
Mhm.
Cloud of Flies.
Yeah, no, any
Yeah.
strat. So like with Tyranids, the Vanguard Invaders have a strat that basically weakens it. So I
Right.
wonder how that's going to work. Like,
Yeah. So what
is it
it seems like they're doing is making it more universal. The rules.
just making it more like Bellacor's aura of like,
Yeah.
hey, you have to be, you're more than 18, which is, I mean, it can still, I mean, that's helpful for like turn one alpha strikes from shooting
Yeah.
armies, but pretty
It
much from turn two, it's really easy to get around that.
it basically makes it like lone op, more or less.
Yeah.
But it's now it's applied to any ability or no, I think it's strats only. Yeah, it
Yeah.
applies to any strat that is similar to the one that originally was only applied to the Chaos Space Marine one. So, like I said, it looks like they're trying to make everything uniform across the board, so that you don't have these different rules. And the other thing is the stratagem that lets you bring back a unit. You can only do it once per battle.
Yeah. So goodbye, goodbye, unending waves.
Yeah, Goodbar Imperial Guard.
Yeah, man, that's a kick in the teeth to
Yeah,
Hearing it swarm left.
Back surgeons everywhere. Remorse.
Well, there's that. Yes. Army roles. The big thing here, at least looking at it right now, there's a couple changes to the custodes, where it just looks like
Martial mastery gets a little better.
Yeah, it does. I mean, sure, but I mean, I don't know how good. I guess it depends on the points, how good the army is now. The big thing is Mechanicus. Mechanicus gets there's a lot of changes.
A ton of changes. I don't know Mechanicus anywhere near well enough to be like, I think this is good.
It looks like they just changed all their weapons and made all their weapons better. And again, none of us play Mechanicus. I have a Mechanicus Combat Patrol, but
you play Combat Patrol,
I guess. But it looks like it's better, especially because the weapons are better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll be interesting to see if this is correlated with points adjustments.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out, but it looks really good. So, huh?
Never mind. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, or I mean, I'm sure someone will let us know how good or bad it is, because the internet's always very positive, right?
Right. I was going to say, going back real quick to Custodes, if I'm reading this right, they changed Orc Champions, that detachment, where each time a model in an Adeptus Custodes character unit makes an attack, add one to the roll. So essentially, I think the way I'm reading it now is if you put a character into a unit, the whole unit just gets +1 to wound now.
Each time a model in an Adeptus Custodes unit.
So instead of an Adeptus Custode character, it's a model in a character unit.
That's pretty good.
The wording seems kind of weird, but I see what you're saying.
That's how I read it, to the change of like, so it's not just, little characters, the characters themselves get a bonus of if they actually join a squad gets a bonus too.
Which, that's huge.
Yeah, +1 to flat, +1 to wound for just having a character in your unit seems pretty good.
Well, and also notice it's not specific to shooting or attack or melee. It's just all attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if that's actually what they intend,
If that's actually what they intend, I'm gonna.
Yeah, well, you have to
bring back the wheel.
You still select your enemy. Select one unit from your opponent's army, so it's only against one unit, but still, it's really good.
I mean,
basically, you pick one unit to just die.
Let's say the wheel of Tom's time revolving through all the codexes might finally swing back to the year of Custodes, but
no, probably not. Anything else?
Eldar a little bit again.
No, Eldar, they didn't change anything. I don't see anything with pluses.
Well, it's not the army rule, but it's the detachments. What is it?
No, that's the same. That's all the same.
Is it?
Yeah, it doesn't have the plus.
Turns.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The next plus is at Born Soldiers Detachment rule.
Oh, right.
They just get lethal hits from any ranged attacks. And each time a model or squadron against monster or vehicle, they get lethal hits. So if it's an infantry unit, they get lethal hits against everything except monsters and vehicles. But if it's a squadron, they get lethal hits against only monster and vehicles.
Yeah.
So
hey, combined arms.
Yeah. Black Templars, their transport gets more models in it. That's basically it. I think that goes for all the. Well, it goes for Templars anyway.
Blood Angels
get to be even better world eaters.
No, they had that one before. It doesn't have the plus.
Yeah.
Stop projecting, Danny.
Yeah, well, +2 strength and +1 attack.
Chaos Knight's new rules is that they can move over. They can move over sections of terrain that are 4 inches or less.
Yep.
But it can also move through sections of terrain that are more than 4 inches, and on a roll of a 1, they are battle shocked. So they can Kool-Aid Man through walls.
That's pretty big.
And I'm assuming that's going to apply to Imperial Knights also.
I
And
would
also
assume
like they
so.
can move within engagement range as long as they don't end, so you can't move block them anymore.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
That. I mean, that alone, I think actually brings Knights. I think that fixes one of Knight's main problems, which just like, with terrain, like you can't navigate the board well, right? Like you just can't go where you need to go, and this really
Yeah, especially with the with
changes
some of the
that.
boards we're seeing with the new FLG board, the WTC board, even the GW board can sometimes be, depending on what layout you're using, can be very detrimental to night players in general.
I mean, makes me want to bust out the Knights actually.
It'd be kind of cool, Kool-Aid Manning through walls, like without having to pay a strat or playing a certain
Right.
detachment.
Yeah, just being able to
I'm
just
gonna
go
skip
up and
over
over.
Chaos Space Marines because it hurts me. It hurts. Not really.
Oh yeah, Warp Talon's got.
So Chaos Space Marine Warp Talons, basically you have to kill a unit in order to use their ability. So for those that don't know, Red Corsairs has a stratagem, or what's called a Renegade Raiders has a stratagem that lets a unit fall back after the fight phase. So what you can do is your Warp Talons come in, charge. If they don't kill a unit, they can fall back and then jump back into reserves. So this prevents that. It's actually not as bad as I thought it would be. So, because usually with Warp Talons right now, anyway, depending on your playstyle, like the ones that, when I use them just to kill chaff, just little small mine
Right.
5-man squads, little, what will probably be action monkeys in most armies,
Right.
things like that. So it's just a to me it's just another restriction, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. You just got to make sure you target a unit you can actually kill if you want them to jump away. Chaos
Death Demon's
Demons,
got a bunch of changes.
yeah, they're big changes that you can come within 6 inches of basically a greater demon
That matches your keywords.
that matches your keywords for Shadow of the Warp or Shadow of
And
Chaos,
Shadow.
sorry, and Demonic Terror.
And Demonic Terror, yeah, now is not only just a -1 to battle shock test, but if you fail, it's D3 mortal wound.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's and all the greater demons got um uh if you're within 6 of them, you count as being within the shadow of chaos for the you know corresponding unit.
Yeah, and they just added the greater demons in the warp rifts detachment rule.
Yeah, so I mean that's again I think a pretty big boost to demons.
Yeah, and they added that special 6 inch rule to all the greater demons. That's really all they did, but it makes them seem a little better.
Yeah, I mean it's mostly because you can essentially you can nesting doll like greater demons if you want, right? Especially if you're playing like mono Corn or
Mm-hmm.
mono Slanesh. Like it's like cool. Well, I have two Bloodthirsters, and instead of Be'lakor, and they're both just going to advance on you. And can you kill both of them? Because whoever you don't kill is going to bring in Scarbrand and maybe a big unit, and a unit of Bloodletters,
Yeah.
or whatever it might be.
Dark Angels Grim Resolve was changed a little, or they added an additional paragraph. Add one to the OC characteristics of models in that unit.
One unit to be even better at holding objectives.
I mean, for the last couple of editions, that's what they've been good at. So,
Yeah.
vowed target detachment rule. You can either make them defensive or aggressive, and it just gives you bonuses if you do that.
You get +1 to wound against any enemy
Yeah,
in range of your vowed objective. Which again, pretty good.
and then the Deathwing Knights, their melee weapons get
Anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4
yeah.
plus. And or that's the Mace of Absolution.
That's the mace, and the mace gets -2 AP, and then the
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 weapons
power
go up to
weapon is
damage
2
2.
damage. They made it
That's
2
pretty
damage.
good.
Yeah,
Getting up to damage 2 actually makes that pretty sweat.
and then they changed the inner circle weapons to -2 AP. Death Guard.
Man,
What are you gonna say, Danny?
I said they also with their they made the sweep strength 5
Oh, they
instead of
did.
strength 4.
Oh
And main
yeah.
attack 5s. They gave them more
Hmm.
attacks with the sweep profile.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, because what was it the same before 4?
Yeah, it was 4 and 4. But
That's weird.
this
That's
it's still
weird.
5 attacks with sustain hits too.
Right.
Pretty good.
Death Guard changed their biologous putrefier. Once per battle round. Once per battle round, they can use these 0 CP strategies. But isn't that changed now, though?
No, because it says if it specifically names the stratagem, it stays 0.
Oh, okay.
So like if it says like you get to use this specific stratagem for 0, it's still 0. It's not
Oh,
negative.
okay. If it's not like generic any stratagem, then okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I was confused about that.
Confused in general.
Death Watch, nothing changed. It looks like Drukhari, nothing changed, but they got the big boost last. Nothing changed in GSC only because there's a new codex. Grey Knights got.
Basically, the way I see it is the Vortex just made it so you can't pick off lone op units or people within 12.
Yeah.
You know? So it's fixing that. And then I think that they made the Nemesis Dread Knight a little better.
They made the heavy side cannon -2 AP.
That's right, but then they also changed the Greater Demon Hammer weapon skill and Nemesis Greatsword weapon skill. To be
2 plus 3 and 2, yeah.
Which I think is currently, if I'm not mistaken, 4 and 3.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, because like I think the idea was just because he was a Dread Knight master didn't mean that he was any better particularly. But if I look at him, no, I think those were older changes that have just been added now, or that were
no, these were older changes because they don't have the plus. You have to remember they have to have the plus though. So that was from last.
Yeah, so then the Ignores cover is still there from before.
Yeah,
and it's still -2.
Yeah, all that.
So really, the only thing
changed was the Vortex.
Yeah, which is interesting, just because like I don't know, maybe I'm not like a pro Grey Knight player by any stretch, but I've been playing with them a number of times recently, more than I have in probably 2 years, and at least 3 or 4 games. And I don't know, I just feel like librarians are not the best possible pick when you're putting characters with your Termy bros.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't play Grey Knights, and I haven't seen Grey Knights near the top tables or interacted with them in terms of like any questions or stuff during the tournament. So, Imperial Knights get the same bonuses as the Chaos Knights we discussed earlier. Votan, they changed the Ruthless. No, they didn't. That was from last time. They didn't change anything for Votan. They're just that good.
Necrons get changed. Hypercrypt, at least. No, they can't use monsters. You can't hypercrypt monsters.
Which is big because
when you use the Cosmic Precision Stratagem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only change. Orcs, they changed. It was actually a bunch. They changed Green Tide, the mob mentality.
So, you only get the 5+ if you have 10 more models.
Yeah. Tide of Muscles, they changed. Add 1 to the charge roll if it contains 10 or more models. Go get.
No, it's just +1 to charge roll, and if your unit contains 10 or more models, you can reroll the charge.
Oh, right, that's what they added. But they're adding, I think, the 10 or more models because I think knobs,
right,
and mega knobs are less, usually less than 10. Go get them. Here's the reroll to 6 to determine how far your unit can move. And probably the big change is they changed the mega knobs so they get a 5+ feel no pain during a WA instead of a 4+, which hurts especially the Bully Boys detachment, which is where you usually see them.
Yep. Space Marines got some changes.
They got
looks like trying to tone down the parking lot gunship.
I guess because they're deleting a bunch of stuff.
The target artery web is not an aura anymore. It's just you pick one vehicle to get the lethal hits.
Oh, right. Which one is Mercy as weakness? Because that one's 2 CPs now.
Yeah, which means they thought it was too good.
I guess
it's too good.
And just like we talked about with the Blood Angels earlier, they changed the size, the capacity.
Storm Spirit.
Yeah. Well, no, they changed the impulsor and
Mercy as weakness.
So what is Mercy's weakness?
Till the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets a unit that is below its starting strength, the attack has sustained hits 1. And when making such an attack, if the attacking model is a vehicle, successful unmodified hit roll 5 plus scores a crit.
Oh, okay. I guess it was too good.
I mean, below starting strength is really easy to proc. So it just means like, oh, we killed one dude out of it. Well, you're below starting strength. Now we
Right.
get sustained hits 1 on like, the fucking vehicles that shoot a ton. And, since they're a vehicle now, they're critting on 5s.
Okay.
But I see why they did that.
Impulsor and repulsor, the same change as everyone else, just in terms of their capacity. Space Wolves, they changed deeds worthy of a saga. You select one below, excluding Majesty.
So you auto start with a saga, completed saga.
Yeah, at the start of the first battle round, yeah. No changes to Tau, Tom. They're perfect the way they are.
All right.
Poor Thousand Suns.
Thousand Suns get
It's a
fucked.
lot of changes.
TLDR, Thousand Suns get fucked. Doombolt is now a psychic attack, even though there was a discussion on whether it was or not because it was from the Cabal points.
Right.
They changed Twist of Fate, which wasn't that the one that got rid of saves?
Yeah.
So now it's just it's just an upgraded AP.
It's still pretty good.
It's not the same.
I know, it's still pretty good though.
And then they changed the Exalted Sorcerer. There's a couple of Temper Surge is changed. They limit it to only once per for the ritual. So you can't use it on multiple units. I saw people doing that. Yeah, it's. I don't know if it.
Thousand Suns.
I don't know if it fucks them over, but it at least
It weakens
changes.
them.
It changes the way they
them.
play. I guess I don't know. Well, I mean, better players than I will have to figure out if it's even worth playing now. So
I'm sure it'd still do something.
Tyranids. I'll let you handle this one, Danny.
All right, so there's a lot of changes.
It's actually a lot.
And they're mostly good. So Synapse gets boosted to where now if you are within Synapse range, you get +1 to strength and melee, which makes, like melee warriors really good. Basically anything that's melee actually really helps out a Neuro Tyrant with like if you want to do Neuro Tyrant with big block of Tyrant Guard, that +1 strength actually helps because their strength's really kind of weak. So yeah, that's just like a nice little piece of candy. Shadow on the Warp now has when you take the army-wide Battle Shock test, if you are within 6 of a Synapse unit, you get -1 from that test. That's pretty slick, especially because you can stack that with other leadership modifiers and really start screwing people over. So that's just like bonus sweet. Crusher Stampede. If your monster is healthy, you get +2 to your OC. So that's actually really good on Trigons. Like Trigons, like really want they need to sell more Trigons or something. But that's Trigons can come within 3 of enemy units. So if they don't screen out objectives properly, you can pop up and you'll be OC6 when you pop up. Great way to steal backfield objectives from people. Change the ferocity stratagem to basically move like knights. Go through enemy engagement range, so no move blocking. You can use a strat to get around move blocking stuff. As well as go like Kool-Aid through buildings, so that's pretty cool. Hive Tyrants, their onslaught now also gives lethal hits, which is pretty cool. A nice bonus. Neurolictors finally get Synapse. Neuro Tyrants can join Zone Thropes if you want like a really kind of tough, basically a really heavy shooting. I don't know why they need to be Zone Thropes, but why not? Broodlord and Parasite both get Shadow on the Warp, which is, they and Synapse, which they both lacked, which is stupid. So there you go. And again, big thing, Moloch Raveners and Trigons get the Vanguard Invader keyword, which means they can advance and charge. So you can actually, like, advancing charge Raveners, like, you can start them on the board in a full squad of 6, and those things can do fucking work. They have so many attacks. Like, so many.
Hmm.
So with them in advance and charge, and they're like move 10, like, you can get first turn charges off on, easily, and they will blitz through light infantry. Um, so that's really cool. Exocrine gets to be strength 9 with its shooting, which I don't know how much that helps. I always found their shooting to be a little lackluster against anything but heavy infantry, so like they're not good at cracking vehicles, and I don't know if strength 9's enough to make them good at vehicle hunting. But the terrain effects, the rupture cannon the damage gets changed to d6 plus 6 instead of 2d6, so it's a lot more reliable. I still don't know if you ever really take it, uh, but maybe if you really, really, really want to bring terrain effects with the big gun, at least it's better. So these are all buffs. Like, I'm actually now thinking in my head of like, ooh, do I want to play like a weird Crusher Stampede army with like Trigons that steal your objectives and big, OC units that just drop in and mess with people? Uh,
Okay.
Actually, hold on, I want to check something real quick.
Oh.
I think he does. I don't know. Suddenly jank appeared in my head. Like, incredible jank.
Don't worry, we'll hear about
Neurotyrant
it.
is keywords. Neurotyrant is a monster. See what Scripture Stampede says. Addition tier and monster unit. Fluid Blast Flexing. So, because the Neurotyrant is a monster, its OC will actually go up to 5 when it's healthy. So even if it's just like alone and hiding, but if you throw it into a unit, the unit gets the monster keyword. So now all of a sudden, the hive, or the tyrant guard with them, one of them's not dead, is getting +2, and also, oh, never mind. Oh, this is unit, but it's model. They won't get the bonus to their attacks, but that's still pretty funny. Still some bullshit you can do with that. I like it. Anyway, Tyranids, big winners. Yay.
Okay. Apparently, the world leaders are fine as is.
Yeah, no changes to them.
So that's the that's the updates for the armies. We'll have to see if AdMech was given enough to like at least be viable somewhat. Bring up their win percentage hopefully, but we'll see. A lot of it's dependent, as always, upon players and who's playing the armies themselves. But hopefully they have a better chance. And as more players get going, and as more people look over the new changes for the army, for the AdMech, hopefully we'll get to see more of that. So in this section, we'll discuss the core rules updates and rules commentary. So with the updates in errata, there's actually a ton of stuff in there. They actually answered questions, a lot of questions that for those that go to FLG events, they'll know our FLG FAQ is very large and expansive. So a lot of those questions were answered, which is fine by me because now I don't have to answer them anymore. So we're going to kind of breeze through it. You may want to just go in if you don't have the document. You may just want to get it and go through it. And there's other places that will actually go through every bullet point. We won't because it's a lot.
And so much.
And a lot of it overall is more clarifications and actual like something completely different from what they went before, and just like with other stuff we talked about, it might be more adding in what they already talked about before and just clarifying things like they talk about redeployments, unit coherency, out of phase rules. They give a better example of out of phase because they're talking about when using out of phase rules, you cannot use any other rules that are normally triggered. I think they said abilities before. It was a slight change from that. You talk about persisting effects,
Right.
Gaining command points, battle shock. They briefly go over that. They talk about with a. I thought it was funny because I have gotten this question where they talk about they show an example of a model moving between two ruins where the space is enough for the base to move through, but the wings are bigger. And Games Works, and I've always said that's fine because it's the base you do everything by, not really the wings. Well, almost everything except for LOS. And they just confirm what I've been telling people in regards to like if it's wide enough for the base to go through, the model can go through it. So that's more or less what that one is. More examples. They've decided to. This is probably pretty big. Not probably, it is where they added a pivot value.
That was
for movement.
Wild.
Yeah, so they talk about the center model without a base. They give everything has a pivot value of 0. Models do, but monsters and vehicles have a pivot value of 2 depending on how they move and where they move. And they give plenty of examples. I'm not going to lie, but some of the examples seem a little off to me of where they take their measurements from.
Right.
But I'll have to look at it a bit more to figure that out. Before they didn't really have a pivot value. They just said you measure from this point to this point, and when you pivot, you measure from this point to this point, and that's your value, more or less. And which is how most people have done it.
Right.
I don't know if you or Tom want to add anything about that being added to the game.
I just think it's another rules interaction where people are going to fight over it until they figure out like a collective community way of just doing it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's going to cause a lot more problems in the beginning than it's going to solve.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Like for example, and my issue is more the way they decided to measure stuff. So if you look at example number, I think it's number 6, where it says moving with a pivot value of 2, they move the rhino 6 inches from back to back, and then they pivot, and then they measure from back to front. Are they doing that because that's the closest point to where it originally was?
I admit I have to like sit and study this more because I'm like, what?
At first glance, it's confusing. So, and we're just giving our initial reactions to it because we're seeing it for the first time along with everybody else. And my initial reaction to this is like, why would you? I mean, I don't know. I personally wouldn't measure from like. I would expect consistency in the measurements, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
Because in the first part of that example, they measure from back to back, and then they measure from back to front. Why not just measure from back to back? Now, if you look at the example, back to back is actually maybe 4.5 or maybe even 5 inches. So it may not be that big of a difference. Or are they counting that 2-inch turn?
I think they're counting the pivot.
So then, is it really 6 inches? 4 plus the 2-inch pivot.
But isn't the pivot essentially free movement that doesn't count against its actual movement that it gets to move while pivoting?
It says the pivot subtracts its pivot value of 2 inches from the remaining distance it can move, so it cannot move further.
Oh.
But if you measure, I don't know. I'll probably have to get my Rhino and actually do it to see what the hell they're talking about because it's just confusing as hell. But I mean, if this is the worst case of any answers, then I'm okay with that. Let's have to deal with it. Asking me about it after LSO.
When it's live, we'll see how it goes.
Yes. And they talk about more. It's just a bunch of different examples. It's not nothing. Further clarifications of just like firing deck, the shooting phase. So one big thing about the shooting phase they mention is that if a model does not have a weapon, it cannot shoot, which is important because in the currently. Or well, I shouldn't say currently. Before, if he remember, you have to be eligible to shoot to do an action.
Right.
So now, if you're not eligible to shoot, or you don't have a gun, you're not eligible to shoot, and you have to, and the other thing in regards to shooting, which I think is mentioned later, you have to have a target to be able to shoot.
Use abilities.
Or use abilities that require you to shoot. For instance,
Yeah, that's
dark packs.
and Gargoyles, Wing Swarm.
Yeah, so
They're
like
both called out specifically.
yeah, and I think they talk about dark pack in the other example, where basically it's Abaddon, because Abaddon gives you the free CP if you roll a 7 or better on the leadership test. But the way it's worded right now, you can choose the unit that Abaddon's in to shoot, and then roll for the dark pact because of the way the rule is worded.
Right.
Now you have to actually be able to shoot at something in order to do it. So, more clarification about mortal wounds and characters. Indirect fire is the big one, which we'll actually stop and talk about. The big thing with indirect fire is that, and I'll just read the sentence. Oh, it's a long run-on sentence, actually. When the attacking unit against the target, so when using an indirect fire weapon, subtract 1 from that attack's hit roll. An unmodified hit roll of 1 to 3 always fails, and the target always has a benefit of cover. More importantly, so now the best you can do is a 4+ with indirect fire.
Yep.
Which is huge.
Fuck off, guard.
Yeah. I know, right?
I mean, was indirect fire? I mean, I haven't been to any big events since LVO, but I don't recall seeing a lot of like indirect fire spam armies.
It was mainly guard.
Okay.
It was because it was guard and some Eldar with the night spinners.
Right.
And the night spinners and the because I just played against Jeff with it. Was it the D cannons? I think it's the D cannons. Yeah, with the only they're only range 18, but they do like devastating wounds on a 2+ or whatever. They changed the rules for hazardous. I'm sorry.
One of the rules writers lost the guard during their lunch breaks and got picked. Like,
I guess. I think they clarify hazardous, especially with characters and just models. I think we talked about that before. They talk about extra attacks, more clarification on devastating wounds. They talk about the profiles and how, basically, for all the profiles and weapons and things like that, they discuss what the minimum is for each characteristic. So they clarified. I mean, we kind of all knew it before. And it was, like, I never got questions about it, but
right.
they now put down a minimum for each characteristic. So for Deep Strike, they added the ability for Deep Strike being able to choose to use Deep Strike, either set up like strategic reserves, which means coming in from the sides, right, or Deep Strike like normal. So not that big of a thing. More clarifications about the leader.
A lot of clarifications about
trying to double check with the leader stuff. It's really like different situations with the leader and the bodyguard unit, and what happens when one is destroyed, one's not. We got a lot of those questions of like, because one of the missions was you have to destroy a unit on an objective. So when the bodyguard unit is on an objective but the leader isn't, or vice versa, we got a lot of questions of like, does it count, does it not count? So a little bit of clarification on that. Then they go into the stratagems, and this is a big one for a number of them. The command reroll now specifies that it's okay to batch roll. Fast rolling is okay, and you can use the command reroll when you're fast rolling.
wait, Explain it to me like I'm 5.
So technically, the attack roll, any roll you make is supposed to be done one at a time.
Right.
In one of the sidebars, GW says if you can fast roll to make things go quicker. So if you have like 10 bolters shooting at something, you're technically supposed to roll each bolter shot one at a time, but you can take all 10 of those shots and roll them all at once.
Right.
So the argument is when you used to use the command reroll, because the attacks happen one at a time, officially.
Use it to one thing.
Yeah, you have to decide after every roll whether to use that reroll. And people are saying that it's an advantage if I batch roll, because I get to see all the rolls and decide if I want to use it or not, as opposed to like, rolling one at a time, using it that one time, and then not being able to use it for the rest of them, which didn't really make sense to me. But
it doesn't make sense to me because let's look at the example with bolters, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got 10 bolters. You roll all of them. You need 3s to hit. You get 5 2s. Well, you were gonna re-roll a 2 at some point, whether it was the first one or the last one. The idea is you have 5 2s.
Right. But what if I had something that triggered on a specific number? Like let's say I'm anti-infantry 4.
You're still only re-rolling a number, right?
Right, but let's say I'm anti-infantry. Yeah, let's say I'm anti-infantry 4, which means I hit on 3s, but I don't get the devastating wounds or whatever critical on instead.
Sure.
So let's say I roll a 4, 4, a 3. Now, do I re-roll that to get the 4 plus? And if I do that, and the next one's a 2, which means I miss, as opposed to rolling them all at once and then picking which one I want to roll.
I think statistically, because you're only still re-rolling a single one and you lose the ability to use a re-roll again, it's almost inconsequential. Because if you take 6 dice, you say, all right, I'm hitting on 3s, and 4s or better are devastating, right? I roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right.
Well, that 4, 5, 6 you were never going to re-roll. You're going
right.
to, you've got a 3 that hits and a 1 and a 2 that don't. I mean, you could re-roll that 3 into a 3 or worse. You could re-roll that 1 or 2 back into themselves. I mean, I don't know. Ultimately speaking, yes, there's probably some math out there that somebody's going to actually me on and say it increases your chance by like 5%, but it's so minimal. It's so minimal, and at the end of the day, because it's minimal, this change is actually positive because it speeds up gameplay.
Yes, and it
also
stops the argument.
It reduces negative player interaction. So any rule or update that does one or both of those things is good.
Yeah, because we get that question all the times. It'd be like, do you guys allow fast rolling? And frontline gaming events do. So we allow fast rolling, which is why. So this actually helps us in regards to like people complaining about our events allowing that. Insane Bravery.
People that complained.
Insane Bravery. I don't know what they changed because the part that says that you roll before you take the battle shock, that was done a while ago. It was before. I know it was before SoCal Open.
Yeah.
Because I tried to stop someone from rolling the dice because he said, "Well, if I fail this, I'm just going to do Insane Bravery." And I tried to stop him from doing it, and then I had to tell him the bad news is that he couldn't use it because he rolled the dice. Even his opponent tried to stop him.
Like, no.
Yeah, it was literally that.
Let's see.
once, yeah. I don't remember. I don't know what they changed in it because it looks the same as before, even though they put the plus.
Oh, wait, no. You can't use it more than once per battle.
No, that was there before too. You can only use it once per battle.
Hang on a second.
Unless someone is trying to target a unit not from their army, maybe, which would be hilarious. I'm gonna make you re-roll that. I mean, I guess you could. Yeah.
Oh no, here's how it changed. It's the target.
Oh.
In current, so the when is the same. Battle shock step of your command phase just before you take a battle shock test from a unit from your army, and then the target is a unit from your army that must take a battle shock test. The target has changed. It's changed now to that unit from your army.
That's weird. Okay.
I think it's just maybe to prevent some weird, oh well, some unspecific thing, right?
Well, no, that now that means no, because I was gonna say because then you can use it at any point, not just in your command phase.
But it still says in the battle shock step of your command phase, just before you take a battle shock.
Oh yeah, then
shock
I don't know
test.
why they would do that. That seems needless. Okay.
It also is kind of weird. The win is weirdly written now, so it's probably just
Just
probably
for
making it
clarification.
clear.
Okay.
I think it's just making it clearer. I mean, sometimes when they do these updates, it's like, oh yeah, it was written weird before. We all understood it, but now it's much clearer, and everyone's like, oh, well, that's kind of what we all already knew. There was no contention around it.
Right. The next one is a big one because it changes the grenade strat. Before, and we got this question a lot, you could advance and fall back and still throw the grenade because it's technically not a shooting attack. So now they added the restriction that if the unit advanced or fall back or has already shot this turn, then you can't throw grenades. Too busy shooting.
But you can still use a unit that hasn't advanced, fell back, or shot, throw a grenade, and then still shoot with them. Because there's no restriction saying that unit can no longer shoot. So you can still shoot after throwing a grenade.
Probably.
I don't see a restriction. So and it doesn't say anywhere else. So that's what I think.
You just have to do the reverse order. Tank shock changed so that they use the vehicle's was it strength? Toughness.
Toughness now?
It's the vehicle's toughness instead of wounds before? I can't remember. I don't tank shock.
Neither do I.
Well, in any case, it's now the vehicle's toughness.
So many pluses in this document.
We're almost done. Well, not really.
No.
Rapid Egress didn't change. None of that.
No.
Heroic Intervention changed.
Yeah, it just went down to 1 CP instead of 2.
Oh, I guess they want people to use it.
Yeah.
I really haven't found any need for it so far. But I don't have a lot of characters in my army, so I mean, I kind of do. Ruins movement
You
section.
don't have to use it on characters. Just one unit from your army.
Oh, it's just an enemy unit.
Yeah, I use it with the Van Ryan sleepers all the time because they can do it for free.
All they did was change the cost. Huh. This is the one.
Here's Tom's turn.
Yeah, now it's Tom's turn. Okay, Tom, the floor is yours.
So, Primarchs, you heard of them? You seen this? You hear about this? No, it's just finally a freaking rule that I feel like should have been in the game from the second Robute Gilliman became a model, which is that Primarchs can finally interact with ruins the same way that infantry does. Like, come on. Like, they should have always been able to do that, right? Like, you had Space Marines going through, you had Custodes going through. Custodes and Primarchs are almost like, pretty much the same size. It makes sense Demon Primarchs can't because they're actually monstrous creature type things, right? So I see that. They're monsters of some form. But, oh yeah, the unit of infantry that Gilliman can attach to cannot go through this building because Gilliman cannot go through this building. So that it was just like a bunch of horse crap. It was just like, and it's something that's been happening since Rise of the Primarch too. Like Rise of the Primarch, when Gilliman first came out, he couldn't go through buildings.
He was a monster.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, he still is,
like,
but
yeah, sure. But like at the end of the day, it was also just it didn't make sense that like they excluded him from that, right?
Right.
So finally, the two things that I wanted to move through buildings, Primarchs and Crisis Suits, can now do that. The irony being that I don't want to play with either of them.
But you have the option.
Yeah. I was finally given what I wanted, and what did it cost? Everything.
Ruins also just further clarification in regards to towering models and being toe-in. And then just talking about units that become battle line when a certain warlord is selected. Just clarification on that. And then we get into the actual FAQs. And there's a lot. Like, this is the first time since a long time that these are actually like questions that they're actually answering. I'm not going to go into all of them. Probably, most likely, no promises. But
Adam's gonna release a special episode after this episode where he's like, "Okay, gang, I went on my own and I did it."
I mean, a lot of them are in the FLG FAQ. A lot of them are. So I mean, there's one talking about shooting when you get shot, which is the Blood Angel Space Wolf / Hellbrute thing of like, hey, when he gets shot, he gets to fight or shoot. Clarification on that. Fighting after being destroyed. And it's funny because this one came up at I think it was BAO in regards to targeting a character. So if your character is a unit of models like Marnius Calgar, the Dark Commune, Celestine, and her Gemini, if they're by themselves, so they're not in a bodyguard unit, you can allocate wounds to the character itself and not the attending models. So that's kind of one of the things that came up lately. I mean, they ask where do you measure from, which is kind of to me like a basic question, but okay. There's a bunch of stuff on timing and sequences. The Melter rule is in there. It's like every question is a plus, and it's a lot. They ask, can you ever start? It's funny because they say the question really says that you control an objective at the end of the command phase. Is there ever an instance can you control it before that? And then no.
No. I like it clarifies monsters cannot overwatch if they're engagement range with something. Because big guns only triggers in the shooting phase. So I know people argue
right.
about.
Yeah.
Where was it? There was one I was really surprised by.
There's one. And if you guys have stuff to call out, go ahead at this point because it's a bunch of pages of like rules.
Can a transport use the firing deck ability to shoot with a weapon equipped by a model that fell back this turn? Can a transport use the firing deck ability to shoot with a weapon equipped by a model that advanced this turn if that weapon does not have the assault ability? Yes, in both cases.
Oh, wow. That's actually pretty good.
Right, it makes transports with firing deck actually not too bad.
Well, I know also they can't use, they said they can't use one-shot weapons, so. Basically, they just reinforce the the person whose turn it is, determines the order of operations for a lot of stuff. They talk about the Melta thing. They talk about, like we said, the out of phase rules, essentially positioning and movement, when to deploy armies. Like Danny just said, there was another one, the transport issue. There's a few for transports. I didn't realize this was a question. A unit that arrives from reserves, can it embark into a transport? That's hilarious. And the answer is no. Okay, so some of that. What else is there? Bunch of reserve questions. I mean, a lot of it, like I said, a lot of it's just questions from, for me anyway, it's a lot of questions from the FLG FAQ, and a lot of it, to toot my own horn, because I'm not very humble, is a lot of questions that were answered. Their questions are the same, answered the same way that I answered them for most of them.
You're taking credit for this, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, I'm going to take credit for it.
You heard first, folks. Adam Solis, author of the GW FAQ.
Just reinforcing that a unit in reserve can be targeted by a stratagem, and this was a common thing that came up. So any units in reserve in general can be targeted by stratagems and abilities. Units in transports, for the most part, cannot. Stuff in the command phase. You can only be battle shocked once. Fight phase. So someone asked if you have to consolidate. The answer is yes. But you don't need to move. So the answer is actually no. It's a long-winded saying of saying no.
Well, yes, but actually no.
Yeah, basically. You talk about actions and the new missions. Mustering armies. Which is an interesting question. So basically, the mustering army one asks, can you have two characters in a unit both with enhancements? So like if I had like a Chaos Lord and a Master of Execution, and let's say I gave them both different enhancements, they can be in the same unit.
I figured that worked, but I could see why.
It can be confusing.
That. Yeah. What I saw that they put a cap on leadership of it can never be worse than 4 and better than 9.
Yeah, that's part of the where they talked about the characteristics and what the max and minimums are for each ones. Yeah, and for battle or for leadership, it's 4 is the lowest, 9 is the highest. So those are all the FAQ parts. Oof. I didn't talk about all of them, but you just look through them and pick out the one you hate the most.
Individually.
Otherwise, we'd be here all day, all night. Rules commentary. They just... I'm trying to see if they added anything really quick. Clarification for as close as possible. And that it involves pivots.
Of course it does.
Base-to-base contact. When moving a model from base-to-base contact with the enemy model during a pilot and consolidation, if that enemy model overhangs its base, such as it's not possible to move your model base-to-base, those models are considered to be base-to-base with each other. Okay. So just clarification if you can't physically come in base-to-base because of something's overhanging or something's in the way. It's funny because there's some of the stuff they put in is like that they put a plus to is like, see this entry over here instead. It's like, okay, I guess you can add that for some reason. Luckily there's nothing. It doesn't seem like there's too much. They talk more for clarification on big guns, because I get asked that question a lot. Charging with a unit. Another thing about overhanging. It's a lot about overhanging. Other than that, nothing here. It doesn't look like there's a lot. So there's a section about fast dice rolling and rules that allow one reroll And it's basically just saying you can use the reroll on the when you're fast dice rolling. Clarification on final death. What else is there? Gaining CP for mission cards. Basically that it counts, which is what they talked about before. Yeah, they're just a lot of it's just a few new things. Measuring from destroyed models, destroyed units. You just measure to wherever the last model was. And again, there's a lot of like there's one that says models without bases. See hull. There's a lot of that, which I find hilarious.
As you should.
Clarification on one-shot weapons, which is basically says
about when units came back.
Yeah.
Right?
It says each time a destroyed model is returned to a unit, any one-shot weapons equipped by that model that were shot before they were destroyed have still been shot. So it's so if you bring someone back, they don't get the weapons back for free. I think I answered that you do at the time, but
well, and the other thing too is that it also clarifies if they haven't shot it, then you do get that weapon back.
Yeah, and that just makes sense. That's not
I think the idea is you get a one-time thing with that unit, and if you didn't get to use it, you still get to use it.
They clarify reposition models that if the unit had advanced or fell back, and the bring a model back, the model they brought back still counts as having advanced or fell back. So again, they talk about rerolls and rerolling batch, fast rolling, essentially. Rules with multiple conditions and effects. Basically, it says that I think both conditions have to be met in order for the effect the rule to take effect.
Which one is it?
It's the one that says that rules with multiple conditions and effect. Some rules have multiple conditions, with the second, more specific condition conferring an improved rule, either instead of the first condition's rule or as well as it. For example, Locust Destroyer's hardwire for destruction, or the Orc's bigger shells for bigger gets stratagem, which I've had a discussion with Orc players about. Such rules require both the first condition and the second condition to be satisfied for the improved rule to apply. So basically you have to do both, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then they give the example. But unfortunately they use the hardwire one instead of the Orc one. I would have preferred they use the Orc example. So, definition of shot, which now includes if a unit was selected to shoot and none of the models in it makes any attacks, it is not considered to have shot. Which came up one time with a
actions.
It was a Necron thing that I think one of them gets a jump or do something after they shoot, but he didn't shoot at anything, so it was a question of whether he could do it or not.
So in this case, no, he can't.
No, and I rolled that same way because even if you just read the definition of shot, even without that sentence, it says the weapon has to have shot, the model has shot. Right. If you made a range attack, then it's considered that. So they just added that. They just added that clarification. So they define. We're basically the two conditions that if there's two conditions, you have to meet both conditions for the ability to take effect. And the example was the what's it called? The hardwired for destruction ability.
The way I'm reading it is just really what I would think would be is that you only get the second, more specific bonus if both conditions are met. You don't need to get both to get the weakest condition.
Oh yeah, for the improved rule to apply. You're right.
Yeah. It's just to have, which again I would assume is obvious, but I guess not.
No, because I talked to a number of orc players regarding the orc stratagem they use as the example. So no, it's not obvious. At least,
players.
at least not. Well, I mean that you know what?
Don't at me.
That tracks for orcs. You know what I mean? Come on. They better define table quarters when measuring the distance to a table quarter. Only measure the horizontal distance. I want to know why they needed that clarification.
Someone was probably had a piece of terrain like on an edge and being like, "Well, I'm actually
Right.
7 inches
Above.
vertically over here."
Yeah, from the table edge. I think. Anything else?
Vehicles on bases.
Yeah, they talk about that a little bit. That's under whole, I think. Oh, modifying characteristics. There's a better wording on some of that stuff. So,
yeah, that's about it.
And I think that's about it. Danny or Tom, did anything else stick out to you guys?
I mean, there's so much. I don't know, like if I can specifically recall anything. It's a lot, man. It's a lot.
Well, we'll also keep going because they also did the updated some of the added more questions for some of the faction FAQs. For orcs, they just reiterated the 5+ invulnerable save, but it's in the FAQ now also. I guess why not? I mean that one. That's a big thing. The other stuff.
Gas School counts as 15 models.
Yeah.
Damn, he's a chunky boy.
Oh yeah. Why not? Some of the other questions are some, you know what's funny is I got a bunch of the questions in that general stuff we just talked to, but in terms of codex specific, some of the stuff they answered here no one's ever asked me. So I'm sure everyone will look at their specific army for any changes. But yeah, like what I talked about for the Votan. Can they select a unit for the ruthless efficiency, detachment rule in reserves? Yes. Can you select a unit that is part of an attached unit? No. So, or if they're embarked inside the transport, which is what I discussed earlier, where it was like you can target units in reserve but not in transports. So, it's just stuff like that. Most of the other stuff it's not too bad. And just reinforcing some of the FAQs you saw in some of the other in the other larger FAQ. I like Murderfang's name. Murderfang's Murder Make.
It just makes me think of Death Clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I can think of.
So basically, can it trigger more than once per phase? The answer is yes. And I got that question a lot. Not just about his, but the Death Company one. It's like, so can it happen a bunch of times? And it's like, yes, you can trigger a bunch of times. There's just certain conditions that have to be met. So this came up. It's in the Space Wolf doc FAQ, but this came up for the Blood Angel Death Company one. Can Murderfang's Murder Make ability allow it to fight and therefore pile in when it is not within engagement range? The answer is no, unless it is the fight phase, and it would be able to end a pile-in move within engagement range of one or more enemy models. Did they answer any questions for world leaders?
Yeah, they actually had a bunch.
Anything that stood out, Danny?
You can use Blessings of Corn if you're in reserve, but not in a transport. Uh,
You can also use it if there's nobody on the battlefield.
well, this is the enhancement Blessing of Corn,
Oh.
or the Favorite of Corn, which I think it looks like they changed it back to where you can do it once per battle round
Oh,
instead
okay.
of only once per game. So now it's maybe a little more useful. Um, where else? Oh, you can double up on icons
On an objective.
on an objective. So if you have like three units with icons on one objective, you get to do three rerolls.
Okay.
So that's not bad. So maybe they're trying to make Angron actually come back.
I'm surprised they didn't limit Angron's ability to return.
No, I mean it's hard to do, and you really have to build for it. And so I played a World Eater list for my league game that didn't use Angron. Honestly, it was better just because it just was way more stuff that was scary.
Oh, yeah.
They just overloaded with me. Again, if I was really gonna like competitively play World Eaters, I think I'd have minimum 30 Berserkers, three Masters of Executions, and three Rhinos, because that's just that's a brutal amount of fights first bullshit to fight through.
Right. Was there anything in the Chaos Demons that
FAQs on Chaos Demons, I'm looking.
they did? But I think it was more like that slime, the Horticulture guy.
Oh, I'm looking. Uh, yeah, what is it? So the enemy method models is within one area terrain feature. They just clarified, but
Oh, instead of like yeah, because
any terrain.
before it could be any. He can. I think the model's big enough, depending how far apart the terrain features are. He could straddle like two. And I believe there's nothing really in the Chaos Space Marine FAQ. And I believe that's it for all the questions, at least the ones that we can see. Again, there's a lot, so I'm pretty sure we missed something that's probably important. I'm not gonna lie.
With pinks and blue horse split, you can't use it on things that deal damage that aren't in attack.
So like something exploding.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't remember. Someone asked me that. I can't remember how I answered. I think. Let me see. I think that's all for the questions. So that's a lot of questions. So I'm probably going for LSO at the time of this recording. I'm probably just going to reset the FAQ, start from zero, because there's just so much in there. I'd rather just start from zero than try to clean it up.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff was answered anyway, so I'd have to delete it anyway. So if you're going to LSO, be sure to submit your questions. And make sure you check the FAQ to see if GW answered it.
FAQ.
Points. Did I guess we can just talk about our armies. As many know, I play CSM. They upcharged almost every unit in my army that I was going to use for Champions Cup. So now I have to find 160 points somewhere. Or around that. I don't know what it is exactly. I think it's at least 150, give or take. But I think I haven't really looked at the other armies, so because I've been too busy looking at everything else. But we'll see. Did you guys look at anything?
Yeah, Chaos Demons. I mean, the Chaos Demons I play got all cheaper. So Bellacor's down, Bloodthirster's down, Soul Grinders are down again. So again, like I need
Nobody
three
takes
Soul
them, Danny.
Grinders.
Nobody takes them, Danny.
No, I mean, especially now that they can, if you mark them, with whatever god, like if I'm playing mono corn, I can drop soul grinders off of greater demons, and that's pretty good because they actually are really worth their points in melee. So yeah, I mean there was no increases to any of demons, and then besides Bellicor, it's mostly corn stuff that got cheaper, and Demon Princess, so that's cool.
Okay. What about World Eaters?
World Eaters got what is it, the they call the 8-bound got cheaper
Oh, they
again.
did. Oh, okay.
So yeah, 8-bound and Exalted both went down. So again, not like a huge amount, but you know,
Better than
I
not.
mean, noticeable.
Tom, your armies?
Tau had a couple good drops. Broadsides got cheaper. A couple commander units got cheaper. Uh, Strikers got cheaper. They're 75 points now, which is actually kind of a steal for them. Grey Knights, which I'm looking at currently, they increased the costs on Ravens and Crusaders, or no, Redeemers for whatever reason. And then
Redeemers are good.
Turn my boy Crow from 75 to 90 points. They're a bitch. And then I think they also increased the points on the Grand Knight Master and Dread Knight Master too. So
Oh.
so I have to tweak my list a little bit there. Space Marines, I didn't really notice anything. I didn't see Knights. God, I have a lot of armies. Votan didn't have any changes. And
What about Tau?
Well, Tau, yeah, that's where they had a couple crisis commander changes, and broadsides got cheaper and strikers got cheaper. But I'm trying to think any other major one that I interact with. No, that's pretty much all that I'm focused on right now. I'm just more upset that they up Crow 15 point.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's other like I didn't bother looking at AdMech, but I'm pretty sure they dropped the points on AdMech so they can drop the points and up the guns.
I actually remember seeing the opposite with AdMech. I thought I saw
really?
AdMech go up.
Oh,
yeah,
that's hilarious.
If I'm not mistaken.
Hilarious. Well, we'll see. I'm sure once everything's updated, we'll see what everything is with the
AdMech. AdMech and Adeptus Sororitas had a lot of red.
Yeah, I was shocked that like Sisters got
they got lambasted.
So much.
Many points. We haven't even seen them. Well, that doesn't bode well for how they're gonna be in the upcoming tournament. So
yeah, Eldari looked like a mixed bag too. Some green, some red. Astra Militarum, it's either same or cheaper. In some cases.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what we got so far for the points. So we'll see.
Tyranids had minor. Neurolictor went up 10 points, but everything that's no longer that useful, like Biobores and Rippers and Mucolids, got a drop. Turbogon went down like 15 points, so maybe useful, but I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, that was short and sweet, luckily. Pariah Nexus, the tournament companion. From what I've read, I actually like it a lot. So, even from the beginning, they have a step where you place the objective markers.
Right.
Which is right before create the battlefield, which would be a lot helpful when we still use player place terrain. But that's fine. Whatever. Determine attack or defender. Select secondaries. They talk about that. I don't think that changed too much. The new orders are still there. Where you discard one secondary card. I don't think there's anything too new, at least in preparing the battlefield. At least in this part, I think where a bunch of the and they show you where to determine victor. So it's 50 points for primary, 40 points for secondary, And then if you're using fixed, it's 20 points per card maximum. And then Army to Battle Ready Standard, which if you've been listening to the show will know, at least for FLG events, will be increasing over the course of leading up to LVO. So look for a video or at least some type of better examples of what we mean by Battle Ready in the near future. They have clarifications for destroying models, VP up to a limit. It's like on some cards where you can score up to X amount of points. Talk about discarding cards, the key. All this stuff is the same. They discuss the new secret missions, which has been discussed before. They give clarification on actions, which may be better than the way actions were described back in 9th. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's an improvement. Like, oh my God, they're learning.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, go ahead, Danny.
I was gonna say it's I feel like it's just cleaner, a little bit more time to like actually lay out like here's the intent, here's what we want you to be doing.
Yeah.
Here's how it should be working. So I think it's pretty clear. I'm sure someone's gonna argue about something, but
We'll see.
think it better than before.
Yeah.
Definitely an improved version of actions.
Yeah, I think it's improved over 9th edition. So, and it tells you who and who can't perform actions and the restrictions when you do the actions. So, and of course, they already have errata for the cards, because what would it be without that for GW?
Yep.
And we won't go into too much. You can just see what they are as you look through this, as everyone's looking through this. And they already have an FAQ for the mission deck, which really just answers questions that probably came up with the previous mission deck. And they just trying to preemptively...
I like how with Cold the Horde, they basically nipped in the bud the cheating way of doing it. Like, oh, I'm going to take 19 models instead of 20. Now I don't give up Cold the Horde.
Yeah, well... And I'm kind of surprised that they did that. That they were able to... and that's one of the cards that they're already errated, where they added the last bullet point that did that. So, see, look at that. FAQ. They talk about tournament play. When they mentioned the pivot again, really leaning into the pivot. And then after that is the actual mission pool. This time there are, was it 20? I don't know. From A to T. I don't know what number that is. It's a high number. And it looks like there's 8 different terrain layouts now.
20.
I guess that. That's how good I am.
8 terrain layouts is intense.
Yeah, so... as you can, if you're looking at it, you can see no Chilling Rain. So there's something special with all of them. It looks like only 2 Dawn of Wars, 2 Sweeping Engagement. Everything else is either Tipping Point, Hammer and Anvil, or Search and Destroy, and a couple of Crucible. Actually, 4 Crucible. Looks like 4 of everything else. Yeah, it's 4, 4, 4, 4. And then 2, 2. That's hilarious. But yeah, so that's the mission pool, and I have to go through it really quick and figure out what I want to do for LSO. I'm sure it'll be fine. At least there's more to choose from, and there's not one mission rule. Like Chilling Rain was in, out of the 16, Chilling Rain was in like 12 of them.
Yeah.
So at least this one, there's at least more variety in the mission rules and the primary mission. So, so that's that. Now we get to the terrain layouts. They talk about objective marker. They talk about the terrain themselves and the color and what they mean. where things are like single or separate. It's a lot more involved. More importantly, though, they actually have measurements.
I know, right? That was huge. I was like, oh my god, you actually put the measurements of stuff.
Yeah.
That's
So
nice.
that will help out a lot. There's 8 of them. We're not going to go into in depth. Plenty of other guys will do that for you because we're lazy.
Yep.
We just give a brief overview, at least from like this show is more or less about the judges. So if you judge, and the layouts, I haven't really looked at them too hard, but some of them look a bit more open than the others. So it's not. It doesn't look too bad. But again, I'll have to discuss with other people like which ones might be the best ones to use for this first couple of tournaments coming out, and go from there. And then again, they talk about pairings, rankings, blah blah blah, which they had in the Leviathan pack. There was something else. There was one other thing I thought was interesting with this packet when I looked at it. But I can't remember now. But I don't know. Well, like I said, when we go to RTTs and things like that, we'll be able to get a better look at some of these and how they'll be. So I'm curious to see how people enjoy them. But that's the tournament packet. I think it's much better than Leviathan. I like the variety. So
Yeah, I'm excited to get some games in with it.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. See how it goes. So, Tom, what are your thoughts on the tournament companion, whatever it's called?
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of refreshing. Got some new ideas that I think I've already played one game with and I already enjoy. So, just excited to see more of it.
Yeah, I don't know how much it would change the army I'm using for Champions Cup. So I'll have to see. I'll have to play more missions to see what happens. So, but yeah. So all in all, thumbs up for now. We'll see. Ask me next year. So, oh, I remember what it is. It's funny because there's a question in the tournament pack. I think this is hilarious. That says, for the purposes of the mission pack, are there any amendments to the core rules regarding how ruins affect charging units and which models can fight?
No, I was wondering if they were actually going to handle that.
And the answer is no. This means model can be positioned to make it difficult to charge directly through sections of terrain features into combat, as models can't end their charge move where any part of the model or base would be within sections of those terrain features, e.g. a solid ruins wall. There's some other stuff, whatever. Designer's note, which I find interesting. Organizers, if your terrain collection includes large enclosed structures or similar that units would be able to move within, but may render ending a charge move within engagement range of those units within that terrain impossible, you may wish to include additional clarification for your particular terrain elements within your event packs to avoid uninteractive situations. Which is interesting, only because they actually, before GW was like, this is how it's done. That's basically it. And they
Right.
I won't say they let people know they didn't like people making changes to the rules, but they didn't. This is the first time they've been like, hey, you can make changes if you want or need to. So I thought that was pretty cool. That they basically are allowing, like we use the WTC basically barricade rule. So it's a 2-inch engagement. So it's allowing organizers to get around the gamey. I'm 1.1 inches away, type of thing. So
I mean, I hate that, but also like this is, I think it's good that they're like, hey, you might have to make a different decision based on your terrain, blah blah blah.
right,
I think that's good, but it's also still punting of like the answer is no, you can't charge through walls.
it's no,
But
it's no, but yes.
yeah, exactly.
But actually, no.
It's no, but yes, depending on where you're playing. So that's the compendium. So like I said, I have to look forward to it and start planning what to use for LSO, and start planning for what. Hopefully, I'll get to play in like local RTTs and stuff in the near future, so I get to play with it more and get used to playing with that set. But I believe that is it. I think that's everything, at least for now. There's probably more we could do, but Danny, Tom, any last words? We still have a regular episode to do, so we can save it for then. Other than that, then I'll sign off. Okay, there we go. All right, well, thanks everybody for listening to this quick recap of the new rules. It's not even a package; it's like a rules glut. New rules glut.
Yep.
For 40K that basically almost changes how everything plays overnight, basically. But thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all at our next regular episode.